You are now listening to the smooth sounds of Love Atia. Ciao, beautiful souls. My name's Atia, and I am your future bestie in your head. I am a sex-positive animal activist. I grew up in Queens, New York, and was homeschooled/unschooled for about 12 years. I was a virgin until I was 24 and attempted to have a hoe phase for 2 years, which eventually led me to being accidentally/intentionally celibate. And here we are today. My past left me with a lot of wild stories, a lot of lessons, and a hell of a lot of trauma. Thank God for my wicked sense of humor, because God only knows I would have perished by now. With that being said, this is your gentle reminder that the Love Atia experience was created as a safe space for me to reflect and share the lessons that I've learned from past traumas. Shit gets real on this podcast, and topics such as domestic violence, sexual assault, substance abuse, depression, anxiety, and suicide may be referenced. If you are working through feeling triggered by certain topics, this may not be the show for you right now, and that's okay. Healing takes time and isn't linear. I'll be here when you're ready. Now, without further ado, the Love Atia experience is an experience. So get ready for laughs, crazy story times, and life-changing pleasure tips here on the Love Atia Experience podcast. Hey, beautiful souls. Was that sexy? Hey, beautiful souls. Happy September. Or maybe it's October or November or December when you're listening to this. Does anybody else just have this, like, pending doom feeling? You know, the great part, though, about this feeling is that enmeshed in the pending doom, I actually feel the most hope, believe it or not. Because the cool part about, like, life as a whole is I feel like things have to explode or implode for, like, shit to happen. And so I feel like based on everything that we're seeing in the world, it just feels like little, big, actually, explosions all over the world. And I think that one thing we're also learning and noticing is that it's a lot of distractions. It's a lot of distractions. A lot of stuff happening globally that I think we weren't even fully aware of. So now not only are we more aware of things that are happening in our home country, right? Quote unquote home country, because that's not really where we were supposed to be. That's where we were born and tortured. But I think it's really important to also note that, like I said, the global things, like, it's just energetically, when you go on TikTok, when you go on Instagram, when you go on Facebook, all three of those places, it's nothing but negativity, right? And so even thinking about just like me and like promoting the academy, it's like I'm not having fun. Like, I'm not having fun going on TikTok trying to find trending sounds and having to sift through all of like the negativity and the death. It's so much death on my like timeline now. And it's kind of always been like this, right? Depending on what side of, I guess, like social media you're on, but I feel like mine has definitely like merged. So with all that being said, I have never been more motivated in my life to really like get this academy completed. And I feel like energetically there are some things that are stopping it. So like even today, I really have no problem bashing this fucking website. Like, you guys know that Wix has been the bane of my existence. I also just found out that Wix is owned by a very problematic country that is known for genocides. Yeah, just found that out. So there's that. I didn't even know that was like a factor until I just did more research on Wix as a whole. So anyways, I that definitely fucking motivated me to sever my relationship and like the piles and piles of bullshit that I've dealt with over the last 8 years. So it's finally just come to a head. And like at this point, I'm willing to just have no website. Like, y'all might have checked my website at this point and like not seen anything. Yeah, that's on purpose. Like, I just don't have it in me anymore to fight with them. I have a physical headache and like I had heart palpitations when I was doing customer service with them. And don't you know that at the end of the customer service, they had the nerve to fucking say, oh, don't forget there's going to be a survey? For the sake of that motherfucker, Matthew, I just made sure that I didn't do the survey. I literally said, are you fucking kidding me? In my head, because I let Matthew know. I said, I understand that this is not your fault. So I'm not going to take my frustration out on you. I'm going to take it out on corporate. So allegedly, he escalated my case. I sent a seething email to 2 random Wix emails that I have, and your girl will be getting a refund, okay? Because I refuse to have, I don't even want the fucking negative juju of Wix to be on my fucking website. Like, it's gonna feel like a breath of fresh air. So anyways, I just felt like if I energetically put an end to Wix, then that would give me energetically more room to be able to grow with the actual academy, right? Instead of this like pseudo academy that I have set up on Wix right now. So that's what I'm working on. I feel like I have some like really heavy hitting things that I really want to do. And so that's what I'm like getting organized. And so this is my update about the academy, but also I want to do a deep dive on pleasure. Yeah, I want to do a deep dive on pleasure. I feel like there is a lot that the universe is revealing in front of us. I feel like with this heightened sense of fear, right? So we can talk about violence. We can witness death. We can witness shootings. We can see people getting maimed. We can see people getting assaulted. I've seen so many women getting physically assaulted by men online, but we can't talk about the word pleasure. And I think that is a very, very, very sick reality. And so I'm going to use this podcast episode as a way to prepare for my YouTube deep dive, because I think that the information needs to be as many places as possible. And yeah, I mean, we've talked about sexual shame before. We talked about pleasure shame, but it's becoming bigger than that. And I know that sounds a bit esoteric, and it's kind of because it is. It's becoming way bigger than just women feeling pleasure. I mean, let's just think about how back in the day, like when women would explore orgasm and would explore their desires, they would be considered witches. They would be considered hysterical, crazy. I've told y'all about the lengths that doctors would go. I mean, that's why we have tampon applicators now. They didn't want us to touch our vulvas. That's why they would put leeches on women's vulvas back in the day in the 50s to really like fucking literally destroy the pleasure center of a woman. Little did they fucking know, though, that women actually have pleasure centers all over our bodies. Like, just think of our fucking chakras. They told us, right? Mainstream media said you have 7 chakras. Oh, plot twist. We actually have chakras that are in the double digits. Now, I don't want to give misinformation about this. I just learned this, and I can't remember if it's 30 or 70 chakras. But we are literally filled with energy centers all over our bodies. Then let's not even dive in. Then you have the rabbit hole of the erogenous zones, right? So for women who may not be able to feel pleasure, say, women who have had female mutilation, which is when your clitoris is literally surgically, or sometimes not even legitimately surgically, removed from the vagina, which is, from the vulva, which is a practice, quote unquote, that is done worldwide. Like it is even happened in the States. People literally have made themselves believe that, oh, this is just something that happens in Africa. No, it happens in multiple different continents, including North America. So we're going to do a deep dive on, one, all of the ways that society has tried to punish women from feeling pleasure. But also, I want to go back to when pleasure was revered, when it wasn't something that was looked at as disgusting. Think about like the dance. I just learned about this last year in India that was literally banned. But it was literally a woman that was created for women, a dance that was created for women to be able to tap into their sensuality for themselves. And I believe to be able to connect with other spiritual realms, if I'm not mistaken. That's what like sensuality has always been. Sensuality has always been a tie between us and our powers and whatever powers each individual may have. I don't know if everybody has the same power. I haven't gotten that deep into my research yet, but I would just like for us to do a transparent deep dive and a transparent educational dive into where all of this, we know, right? The grand scheme of things. Like we understand it's in the language, it's in, pudendum, that means shameful parts translated into Latin. Like we understand that. We know that one of the main causes is religion and the patriarchy and societal beliefs as a whole, and then miseducation. But what was that official turning point? Because something makes me feel like it was men. What? Yo. I've been letting my mind like run wild when it comes to just concepts, right? And I'm like, what if men didn't? What if there was a time when men didn't exist? No, seriously. I'm just saying, okay, let's just leave that out there. I don't know. I feel like this is a safe space for me to be able to say that shit. And even if they did always exist, like, I would just love, blah, 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 to just believe that there was a time when, like, men were not funking up this earth. So, and you know, at one point when I was creating the Ethereal Pleasure Academy, I was like, I don't want people to think that I hate men. Like, the concept of them is fine, but their internal makeup is just generally fucked up. So do I hate men? That's up for debate. Do I hate the makeup of men internally? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that there is something in their nature that just genuinely doesn't necessarily allow them to fully connect with me and my spirit. That's just how I feel based off of my experiences. And if you knew about every single thing that I've been through when it comes to like just trauma, oh my God, I just had a dream last night that the person who assaulted me was in the same room as me. Wow. I think it's because I've been genuinely considering like telling the people who they're affiliated with that he's a fucking rapist. And then I also think that I saw one of the girls that I think that he has also tried to do something to. Something came up somewhere on something that I have her on, and I was like, I saw it right before I went to bed. So I feel like that's probably why I had the dream. But anyways, yeah, he was there. And then the guy that I consider to be like my quote unquote cousin was there. And I went to like go hug him. And I feel like I went to go like tell him, hey, your friend's a rapist. And I never did. But it's also crazy because I also think that I had a dream about my cat or one of my cats. Anyways, I've also battled, right, with feeling like, oh, should I be like more quote unquote professional, right, with the Ethereal Pleasure Academy? Because it's like, I have the educational background, but I also have the life experiences. And that's what I was going to say. I'm sorry. I think I started the conversation earlier and I never finished it, or I recorded over it. But I think that one of the most beautiful things about me versus other companies out there, because there are companies that exist in the world that are doing not exactly what the Ethereal Pleasure Academy is trying to do, but in similar realms, right? And so that those are the people that like I have in my pitch deck as my competitors. But I also have noticed an uptick in things, in companies, in reveals that are very similar to the Ethereal Pleasure Academy, possibly even with similar names. But I'm really grateful when I feel like I may have inspired someone, whether it be consciously or subconsciously. Although the initial feeling of feeling like my shit is being colonized is a bit frustrating, I'm grateful. No, I really am. Because at the end of the day, if my goal is for people to feel more pleasure, then fine. The more pleasure academies that there are out there, the fucking better. And I also understand that nobody is a Tia. And that nobody will ever be able to provide the personal experiences that a Tia, me, has been able to provide for the Ethereal Pleasure Academy. And I'm speaking from a very informed place from my perspective as a Black woman, right? It doesn't mean that people that are not Black women can't get... Honestly, if you are any kind of minority, you will be able to receive a hell of a lot of insight from my academy, as opposed to somebody who may not have that kind of experience or diversity in their lifetime, or just in what they've experienced. Some people may have experienced things from just a different background. And so I think that that's what makes all of these educational tools very important, right? So I did just want to put that out there. But with that being said, I think that is what makes the Ethereal Pleasure Academy so radical and so revolutionary, because I don't just want it to be a business. I don't want it to be a corporation. That's why, me selling sex toys has been reduced, right? Like, I wanted to have a full array of all the toys that anybody can buy. Now, I just want to now, when you go to my website, you will see that my shop is literally just items that I own and that I love. That's it. I actually have some toys that I don't necessarily care for, and I'm going to talk about those toys. I think that I would like to share why I don't care for these toys. And then that can also give you some education on what kind of toys that you should buy, what kind of toys you don't want to buy. Because there are just simply some toys that I have that I just have not used or have not enjoyed, and so I haven't promoted them, but I bought them for my company. And so I think that even that kind of education is important. I also think it's important that my vulva is different from other vulvas. So my vulva's experiences are just fucking going to be different from the rest, right? And I think that's why it's beautiful, because all vulvas are snowflakes. So they're all different, and we can't compare one person's experience to the next. Eventually, I would like to have a whole team of people that are speaking from informed experiences on my page, right? I can't speak from a place of somebody who's trans. I can't speak from a place of somebody who's non-binary. But I definitely, that was like on my front runner of things that I needed done for the Academy, like wanting to build a staff of very inclusive walks of life. But I think that the Academy has definitely transformed into being, it's a stepping stone. This shit has levels. And I've also learned not to announce each level, right? Because I have some really inventive ideas, but I also know that these ideas can easily be stolen and considered to be as original ideas from people. And it's okay. It is what it is, whatever. But I just know that my inventive mind has to be very careful with what I put out there now, based on what I'm seeing is being duplicated and replicated. And not just for my business, but with a lot of other businesses too. Now, before I continue and proceed with my thoughts, I'd like for us to take a pause and drink some water. All of us. All right, I just drank my water, got my laptop. Did you drink your water? Did you? You better be gulping. All right. We're trying to stay hydrated and healthy in this piece. But that's what I was going to say. It's one of the things that I think makes me so amazing is that I am so radical. And I think that one part about being radical is that you have to be unapologetic. You have to be unapologetic. You have to be willing to say shit that you may want to redact later on, but it is very important to be very thoughtful when being unapologetic. And I think that one of the problems that a lot of people are unapologetic, but they're not thoughtful. And although I say thoughtful, I really want to say you have to be intuitive. Yeah, I really think you have to be intuitive, because I think that sometimes the messages can get a little bit mixed up. And I think that the messages that we have in our heads and the downloads that we have in our guts are two different things. And so I think, and that's another reason why it's very hard for me to relate to men's literature now. It's very, very interesting. Seriously. I low-key want to give away all the books that I have written by men except my dad, because I love my dad and I love his writings. And I love his teachings. You know what? Now that I say that, I think that I just don't like self-help books for men. I think that's what it is. I really do. No, I truly do. Books for men, I'll just stop it there. But anyways, long story short, I love my dad's book, so that's a fine book to participate in and buy. But yeah, otherwise, the self-help book realm, especially the ones that are targeted for women, I'm just this doesn't make any sense. You don't even know how a woman's mind works. So yeah, I think that's definitely been an interesting outlook. But again, there are some, you know what? Also, including my dad, also Don Miguel Ruiz. I don't know though. I don't think of my dad and Don Miguel Ruiz as the typical men. I don't know. And that's a good thing. Believe me, it's a compliment. I believe that they are much more, divinely guided. And I think that they are much more intuitive. Let me try to think of one more man that has wrote a book that I've been yeah, this shit is really good, and I can go back to it over and over again. Give me a second, because The Four Agreements was really good. A Mastery of Love is really good, but once again, that's Don Miguel Ruiz. The Cat in the Hat? No, because Dr. Seuss, I heard he was crazy. And also The Cat in the Hat isn't my favorite. Green Eggs and Ham is. Wasn't he a dictator or something? I don't know. No, there's something fucked up about him, though, that I just don't remember right now. But anyways, I say all that to say that there are some good male authors out there, but just very few, which is why I continuously read my dad's book over and over and this Four Agreements over and over again. All right. Anyways, with that being said, well, he has multiple books now, both of them. But yeah, I think that it's very important to be very, very assured and very gut-centered when being radical and when being revolutionary and really knowing your shit. And so I don't want to look at the Ethereal Pleasure Academy as a company that's meek. That exists. If I had to quote two companies that I really love their philosophy on when I feel like it comes to the unapologetic aspect of it. It's Unbound Babes, like fucking love them. And then it's Dame. Love them. Both women-owned companies, like women-operated, like very women-centered. Both also two very political companies. So, maybe actually what I'll do is just continue to study all of the radical things that they've done, not for the sake of replication, but for the sake of inspiration and for the sake of motivation. Because this is a fight that they've been fighting for a long time. This is not a new revolution. I'm just joining in. I'm not creating the revolution. I'm just creating a tool to be able to help progress the revolution. And if you know me, you know that I've actually been an activist since I was probably 4 years old, writing petitions at the age of 4. My mom and I have a funny story about like when I was writing a petition one day against deforestation. And so I went up to her and I was like, Mommy, I'm trying to write the word due to deforestation. How do you spell due? Or like, which due is it? And so she was like, oh, it's DUE. And then I was like, okay. And she was like, well, do you need help spelling deforestation? And I was like, no. I just needed help with the due. So yeah, that's always definitely been like a very big thing where I knew that like I was radical and I was supposed to be somebody who changed the world. Like I it was just a knowing. And so I think that is once again another thing that like definitely sets the Ethereal Pleasure Academy apart from a corporation or a company. And yeah, like I said, that's why like I've kind of fallen back a little bit on the sex toys. I want y'all to have them if you want them. Give y'all access to them and some discount codes for them for my VIP people. But like, I think that and very important people are literally just academy students. But yeah, I think that, I mean, not just, y'all are everything and more. But my point is that y'all are very important people. So I want to provide these things. But yeah, my focus is really like getting it ingrained into our minds that this is like, there's a war against us. Like there's a war against the vulva. And we have to fucking like get it right. Now, the other thing is, with that being said, like I thank God, I'm the leader of the Ethereal Pleasure Academy, but I'm not the leader of this pleasure movement. I feel like collectively we are all leaders, right? Or I should say I'm not the sole leader of the pleasure movement, but I also think that I am 75% aware of the energy that's going to be needed and of the courage that's going to be needed. And so, I mean, even like just the fact that people want to like hang out with me and like have fun and talk, I genuinely don't have the time or the energy to talk. And I don't think that everybody fully understands that. So what I think I'm going to do is just make a voice note. And if you care enough to listen to it, then great. And if you're one of those people that's like, I'm not listening to this, then good, because it means that you genuinely don't want to have insight into my life. You just want to have me around for the sake of your own shit, but you don't want to get to know me. And so for a very long time, like I've been battling over the last year and a half, like how do I tell people I can't hang out all the time? I can't listen all the time. I don't have the brain space for that right now. My main priority isn't to make friends. My main priority is to get my fucking mission done because I know I'm here for a reason. So yeah, I think that over the next couple of days, I'm really going to work on that. I'm really going to work on trying to find more ways to protect my energy. And like I said, my focus is bringing pleasure into my life. And interacting with people, depending on the people, don't always bring me the utmost pleasure. Or it won't bring me more pleasure than it does when I'm by myself. So I just wanted to like put that out there because I don't, and the other interesting part is that the people who like miss me and like want to hang out, they dead ass don't listen to my podcast. And so once again, it's like, why would I hang out with somebody who literally doesn't support me? They like the advice I give. They like the energy that I share. They like the happiness they feel when they're around me. And I'm just fucking tired afterwards. Midway through, actually. So that's why I've been very intentional with like my hangouts, with my catch-ups. Like even I'm going to go meet somebody Sunday. And like I'm trying to figure out a way to very much so emphasize that I love being alone. I love being alone and I love temporary connections. I'm very much so becoming detached. I also think that honestly, volunteering at the cat shelter has been very helpful and healing for me, for a multitude of reasons, but also just like the helpful part of it being that I definitely feel like, wow, so crazy because I literally had a thought about my cat and when I thought about the cat shelter, and then I went down this entire rabbit hole in my mind just now. I cannot wait for the day that like my brain is not torturing me anymore. Because they say like the brain protects you from memories. So I'm like, so why on earth does my brain keep looping this memory over and over again? But I'm about to get Reiki done. I have like 3 therapy appointments set up. I don't know, I'm doing everything I can to feel good and to feel better. But I say all this to say that the cat shelter has helped me with non-attachment, because as much as I loved Mauricio and like adored him and spent my whole birthday thinking about him, like the black cat from the shelter that y'all know of from TikTok, I also like am so grateful that he has a home and so grateful that he has love. And then the other day I went into the shelter and I saw Margarita and I fell in love with her. She was like not a replacement of Mauricio, but it was like she knew me. I just feel like spirits literally hop from cat to cat. It's very, very interesting to see. I mean, even with my first cat, Sue, like I could tell that she was like a spirit. I could just tell. And I know that Tam was a spirit because the way that I would not be able to find her and then she'd come out of nowhere. I'd be like, girl, you were literally not there. Like the universe really gaslights us with cats. But anyways, now that I've shared all of this insight about attachment, non-attachment, radicalness, revolution, creating the environment for me to be able to really continue my revolution and to continue to help people feel good. I have to help by helping myself feel good by not being around people. I'm ready to dive in now to pre-shame, right? So before pleasure was shame, and before pleasure was just looked at as a shaming as a whole. And I do always think it's important to get to the root cause. I mean, even for me, like when I did my own workbook and took my own course about shame, currently featured on the Academy. It's called this Unashamed Dismantling Sexual Shame and Prioritizing Personal Pleasure. When I was doing the workshop, I realized that like, although I grew up in an environment in which it was so sex positive and like so healthy, I literally still was subjected to shame. It's like when you are not sick, right? You're a healthy person. And then you go out into the world and you see that everybody else is sick. It's very, very hard not to get a little sniffle or a little cough or a little scratchy throat, because you are just around a sick society. And so that is literally what it is with pleasure, right? Especially those of us who are having sexual experiences with men. Because I will say that one of my most healing sexual experiences sexually was with a woman. Emotionally, fuck me up. Sexually, I definitely felt extremely safe. Unfortunately, though, the second time that I had sex with a woman, I didn't feel like it was like 100% ideal. So yeah, I say all of this to say that, now that I reflect on it, I really don't think it matters the body that you have sex with, because we are just all living in this sick society. We are literally just all sick. So let's take it back. I think the best place to take it back would be to the indigenous people, right? Because even when it comes to like BECCBD, whatever the fuck they be saying, I know because there's like before Common Era, so not before Christ, but like BCE. So we'll see where this leads us and like how far deep back we go. But I do just think that like indigenous practices as a whole, like I do think that they're the original people, and so I think that we should definitely like tap into their philosophy. Also Africa, once again, the original people, I feel like we should take it back to like, I mean, in Africa, there was no shame when it came to women's chests. There was no shame. Women walked around freely. And you know what really makes me it makes me wonder what the percentages of breast cancer are in Africa versus America. Because if these fucking bras are one of the main causes, I'm just saying, I don't know. I worked at Victoria's Secret for years. I was part of the problem, apparently. But, like, I'm just saying it would be very interesting. So, yeah, I mean, it's very clear that, like, the shame was definitely cultivated in Europe and didn't get placed upon us until once the Europeans came. So let's reflect on the times before we were colonized and invaded. Okay, so I was trying to do a deep dive, right? But one thing I have learned, and I was just rudely reminded, is that the internet is not necessarily my safe space for education. The other day, if you are on my Patreon, you probably heard the episode where I was educating myself on sex work. And I haven't posted it as of me talking about it right now, but I probably have gone ahead and decided to just post it just so that I can like document my education on it. And like it's a rabbit hole that I thought I was ready to go down, and apparently I wasn't. So I ended up, like I said, just sharing it on Patreon because what had happened was I felt like I was learning a lot of great information until I came across an article that I didn't realize was written by somebody from MAGA very clearly far right. And I should have known. It wasn't until the end of the article that it was clear. It wasn't until the part where they said that sex work is not work. That, and they didn't phrase it like that, but they rephrased it. And I said, oh, wait a second. What the fuck am I reading? And then I went to the bottom of the article and saw something about like far left. And I said, oh, shit. They're like, yeah, the far left liberals. And then they're like, oh, yeah, the super liberal feminists. So, yeah, there were some signs. And I made some excuses. Because I did meet one very liberal feminist who didn't believe that like women wanted to be sexual on our own without coercion. So I thought they were referring to people like that. But anyways, I give myself grace. I give myself love, but I was not going to post that on my public facing platform. So if you want to see me actively realize that I was reading a fucking article from MAGA, feel free to check out Patreon. Because at the end of the day, we did dispel a lot of it. And they had a lot of blanket statements on there that were just totally irresponsible. But yeah, I have a lot of very like candid episodes of my Patreon that you can check out as a paid member. But I say all that to say I've just been highly paranoid now I'm usually very on it with citing my sources. That was the first time that I felt like I had reached a very uncredible source. Except for when I fucking like quote the WHO sometimes, and the CDC. Sometimes I'm like, how credible are you? But anyways, so I did find this article though that was written about indigenous erotica, and it talks about how like things have been erased and like stories have been like hidden. And so I truly believe that I will get the answers that I want with reading. It's like today, I mean, I definitely have to stay off of social media. Like it's just too much. And it's, like I said, a distraction. So I think that I will do a majority of my reading today. The book Pleasure Activism, it's so funny because I keep telling myself I have to finish a fucking book before I start the other one. And then I wasn't able to finish the 4 Agreements at the cat shelter because one of the cats hissed at me, not the one that knows me, one of the ones that doesn't really interact with me. Anyways, so I wasn't able to go through the room. It was a whole thing, but I wasn't able to finish the 4 Agreements, which is why I just started my other book on my own, because I would have been finished the 4 Agreements and I just read the other book to them, but I feel like they're into the 4 Agreements and they always come out, the cats that were abused, when I read the 4 Agreements. Anywho's, I say all that to say that I need to read more, and I really want to read Braiding Sweetgrass, although I don't know if that's going to give me the answers that I'm looking for. I just want to read Native American literature as a whole, because like, why am I not? And I'm also, anyways, I'm not trying to give y'all all of my little tidbits and stuff like that, but just know I'm really working on being the best version of me. So with that being said, let me read this article that's written by Bridget Sterling, and it's from February 12th, 2016. It's from the University of Alberta, and it says, Indigenous erotica gives new meaning to, quote unquote, all my relations. It says, what does it mean to decolonize love? After completing her Bachelor of Commerce degree, Kristen Lindquist went to work in a store selling diamond engagement rings. But soon, her job selling jewelry started her thinking about why and how the tradition of diamond rings became so central to how we think about love. And don't even get me started on the motherfucking diamond blood trade. If I was to ever get married, that motherfucker better not buy me no goddamn diamond ring. You fucking kidding me? Anyways, it says, quote, I don't feel like saying quote and unquote, but like, I'll just say it for this. Quote, people would come with questions like, is it true that you have to spend 3 months' salary on a ring? Unquote, she recalls. So those questions weighed, it doesn't say so, sorry. Those questions weighed on Lindquist's mind as she went from retail diamond sales to a career in advertising before returning to university to earn an honors degree in Native Studies. I didn't know you can go to school for that. That sounds delicious. I was connecting my experience in business and then comparing it to different worldviews and perspectives in Native Studies. How can we tell our own stories to address what's out there in advertising? Indigenous worldviews are integral to teaching and research in the University of Alberta's Faculty of Native Studies. And the question of relationships, love, and sexuality is an emerging area of scholarship. Students are often surprised to learn that the faculty I'll keep reading it. That the faculty offers a course in Indigenous erotica created and taught by Tracy Bear, PhD candidate in the Department of English and Film Studies. Wow, that's very deep. The course explores Indigenous literacy and visual works and examines the Indigenous erotic as a rewiring of Indigenous body, sexuality, gender, and desire as a source of power and knowledge, she says. Bear had 2 goals in mind when she discovered the course. Her intention for the studies was to gain an understanding that the Indigenous erotic is much, much more than just tantalizing text and visual arts. In fact, erotica often offers up new ways to think about Indigenous sex, sexuality, and gender. The second objective is about the student's personal growth. I want students, whether they are Indigenous or not, to embody the erotic, which means they acknowledge and factualize every dimension of their being for them to be empowered. And as Audre Lorde asserts, not to settle for the convenient, the shoddy, the conventionally expected, nor the merely safe. I have to read some of her stuff. I think it's a woman. One of the main goals of the study of Indigenous erotica is for the Indigenous people to reclaim corporeal sovereignty. What's this? Corporeal sovereignty? I'm going to look this up. Corporeal sovereignty over their bodies, which Bear says is an essential part of the process of decolonization. Okay, now hold on real quick. What is this? What is corporal sovereignty? Corporal sovereignty refers to the idea that every individual has a full autonomous authority and ownership over their body. It combines 2 concepts: corporal, meaning relating to the body, the physical self, and sovereignty, supreme power or authority, the right to rule self without interference. So corporal sovereignty means the right to make decisions about your body without external control, whether from governments, institutions, medical systems, or other people. It often shows up in discussions around bodily autonomy and consent, sexual rights, reproductive rights, medical freedom, choosing or refusing treatment. We definitely lost some fucking corporal sovereignty in 2020. Identifying an expression, how someone chooses to present or modify their body, and human rights, the principle that no one should be subjected to harm, coercion, or control over their body without consent. Which reminds me, by the way, I am definitely going to be doing when I come back to social media, the first thing I'm doing is talking about ways to identify coercion and assault, because that's very important and it's very hidden. Okay, it says histories of Indigenous sexuality have been silenced, corrupted, and demonized with colonial language that is steeped in sexual sin, shame, and perversity. She adds that through the creation of erotica, Indigenous artists and authors reclaim these histories and express our desires, practices, genders, and sexualities in way in which we choose. Erotica is a source of joy as much as a place of political action. It's so crazy that she says this because, opinion piece, this is me speaking now, not quoting anything, but I've been trying to find some erotica that I could get into. And I can't lie, if I knew that there was some Indigenous erotica, I could get into that. I don't know why. I'm just like not turned on by like the other, I guess, colonized erotica. Um, like I mean, even I don't know of any like good black erotica. And I was reading about lesbian erotica, and there was a Reddit thread, and they were saying that, yeah, can I get a fucking book where there's not a light skinned curly haired girl as the like lover or main character? Like, this is exhausting. And it's so funny that they say that, because the one book that I do have, the girl went in explaining how biracial she was. She was like, me and my curly hair and fair, clean, beautiful skin, and my mom's pasty white complexion shined as she did the crack, and my dad's like fucking, I don't even know what's brown. What the fuck is brown? My dad's skin was the color of my door. I don't know. They just always say some stupid ass descriptions to try to describe like this girl is light skinned and biracial. Okay, anyways, so I would just definitely be into some like indigenous erotica. It says beyond settler sexuality. That's the next part of this. Associate Professor Kim Tallbear. I love these names. Oh, love them so much. God, please take away my colonizer last name. Associate Professor. Oh my God. I should change my fucking name. Okay, anyways. Oh my God, I just came up with it. I know exactly what it's going to be. Anyways, Associate Professor Kim Tallbear is also examining those histories and uncovering ways of understanding relationships with an indigenous worldview. Tallbear's previous work has been in the area of indigeneity and technoscience, examining the relationship between genetic science and notions of race and indigeneity. Though science and sexuality may seem like strange bedfellows. No, they don't. Bedfellows, they don't. Tallbear explains that Eurocentric ideas of both come from similar roots and have similarly been used to frame indigenous people as less developed, a part of nature and the environment, rather than as equally developed human beings. And you know what's very interesting, opinion piece, is that I think that it's very interesting that people have had to create like destructive tools. Like, granted, you know, yes, primates are known for creating tools. Like, they're very, very good at that. And I'm pretty sure there are other species that they've learned that also know how to create tools. But I think that man, white, is the one that is known to create tools that like no one else can defeat, like guns, say, you know? Because even like back in the day when I watched the Nat Turner movie, and I was so mad that like they brought rocks to a gunfight, and it's like, right, because no one was expecting like them to have these guns. Like, these guns are not natural. The rocks are natural. They could have all had a rock fight and it would have been fair, but they know that they can't win against us because they don't necessarily, I don't feel like they have the connection to Earth that, like, I mean, think about it. Earth literally like burns them and like it fucks them up. So yeah, I think that the white man definitely felt like he had to try to make himself be so superior and seem so superior, even though he doesn't have half the things that melanated people have. And so I think that that's why they've tried to make indigenous people seem like underdeveloped humans, when in reality, indigenous people, African people, are the people of the earth. Like, we literally have earth within us. So yeah. And I also, oh God, let me not go in my soapbox. Okay, because I was about to go there. As Tallbear explored the history of the development of the colonial state, she says, it became very clear that along with science and technology and control of the land and resources, there was control of indigenous people's sexuality. Rediscovering what indigenous families forms might look like is a complex process. Tallbear explains, we have lost a great deal. When you lose indigenous languages and when you are forced into residential schools and missions, you lose a lot. It says, although some clues can be found in early records, Tallbear notes that there are indications of indigenous same-sex practices being punished by death under colonial Spanish powers in what is now Mexico much? Under death. colonial Spanish powers in what is now Mexico. Oh, wow. Much of her work relates to understanding how practices now seen as non-normative by the modern state may reflect a survival model of the indigenous family form. Wow. So it was like survival to have to hide your sexuality, which we knew this. It's just, I'm still shocked every time. It says she references the work of the indigenous feminist scholar Kim Anderson, who says that single mothers do not exist in indigenous communities because women would care for their communities and their children together. Why are we stigmatizing these family forms? Tall Bear asks. By the way, that reminds me of the dolphins, pencil dolphins, who they have kids, right? They all of the dads have sex with all of the moms. They have kids, and then the entire community takes care of each kid. So there's not one child that's like designated to a specific father. They just all take care of all of the kids as if they were their own. And so it says, why are we stigmatizing these families? Tall Bear asks. It's not that we're simply failing at the normative nuclear Western family. She believes that these different family structures, such as children being raised by a network of relatives, are often perceived by outsiders as unhealthy because they do not fit with the nuclear family model, which can lead to children being removed from their home communities. Therefore, fulfilling the foster care system, which I'm adding this, and then therefore, a majority of the trauma that happens in the foster care system and how many kids get lost in the system every year. It says the tribe is also an important family that they should retain relationships with, even if the birth mother or birth father is not around. So the child should then maintain relationship with them. It says we are all related. These family norms reflect a model of love founded in a phrase often used in indigenous communities. We are all related. Similarly, Tall Bear says, as indigenous views of love and sexuality can conclude more than the monogamous nuclear family model. A lot of non-monogamy scholarship in the West tends to be about individual self-actualization, about throwing off oppressive sexualities. And I'm down with all of that, but it doesn't tend to do what it is supposed to do as an indigenous scholar of non-monogamy, which is to think about non-monogamy in a broader context of community, of extended relations, and of our obligation to the earth. Okay, see, I get this. I get that. I totally get that as a non-monogamous. But think about the biracial guy that I had sex with that literally was like, I want to be non-monogamous so that I don't get hurt and so that I can be the one to hurt people. He literally said that shit. Or the other biracial girl, she was half Spanish, half black. And she was like, she was talking to me and 8 other girls. And she was like, oh yeah, if I had to say how many people I like right now, it would be 7. God, bitch, there's not enough you for that. There's not. It's not a you thing. Like non-monogamy. It's supposed to be about everybody, in my opinion. That's why I really don't want to count that shit that I was in as non-monogamy. That with my lesbian, I don't know what the fuck that was. That was just a shit show. It wasn't non-monogamous. Okay. It says, to Tall Bear, the compartmentalization of love into categories of platonic love, romantic relationships, and the care for a pet is deeply problematic. If you're going to think about indigenous ethic of relations and being related, categories of love have to be more fluid. The world is made up of entities that sustain and care for each other, whether through sexual partnerships or through an animal that feeds a hunter. Instead of using the word love, she believes the idea is best described through the language of reciprocity. I think about being in relation and obligations to my relations. Also, just going back to what she said about the love being more fluid. Yeah, definitely, I have noticed the feeling that I get from meeting a new cat at the shelter or hanging out with the cat and giving it love or when a cat gets comfortable with me and sits on me and hangs out with me and feels comfortable. That feeling gives me the same, if not a better dopamine boost and feeling as falling in love with a romantic partner. falling in love with my friend. Like I had such a beautiful exchange with my friend the other day of just like such deep appreciation and like seeing each other for who we are. And there's like a genuine curiosity between the both of us. And like there's a quid pro quo between the both of us. And like we're both equally as helpful and we both equally give each other resources. And it's the reciprocity that she was talking about. Wow. Okay. But now my only thing is I'm going to reread this sentence because I just want to make sure I'm fully understanding it. Is she saying that the reciprocity is good or that the reciprocity is not good? I personally, I would say before rereading it that the reciprocity is good. Just like with sex, I believe in reciprocity. I feel like we should both feel pleasure. I think that's just how it should be. Right? Because a part of me says that but we should be able to give without ego. But when we give to the earth, we do kind of pray that the earth gives back to us, right? Like when they do dances for rain, they're dancing because I feel like they want the earth to be able to provide the gift of rain, and they're providing the gift of their creation and their dance. I don't know much about Indigenous dancing and what the core beliefs are in it, but that was just my interpretation of it. So once again, just to read that sentence over again, it says, the world is made up of entities that sustain and care for each other, whether through sexual partnership or through an animal that feeds a hunter. Instead of using the word love, she believes this idea is best described through the language of reciprocity. I think about being in relation and obligations of my relations. Okay, so she's just saying that's more so reciprocity than it is love. And now I'm like, I guess it's up to me because I'm always looking for the answers of like what's good and what's bad, right? What's supposed to be, what derived from the ego. And it's so true because some people do use the word love and they'd be like, but I loved you. I did this. I did that. I did this. And it's like, no, what you were looking for was reciprocity. Damn. Lindquist's work is taking her in similar directions. In contrast with diamond rings, her friend taught her that in Métis partnerships, women would bring a handmade pair of moccasinas, with them as brides. Oh, my grandma used to have moccasins. And the gifts symbolize the reciprocity of the relationship between hunter and homemaker. You wouldn't hunt without moccasins, and you couldn't make moccasins without a successful hunt. That's deep. Rest in peace to the animals. Both partners understood the meaning. The giver would continue to make the moccasins as long as the receiver continued to provide the hides. For Tracy Bear, the study of the erotic is an important piece of the process of reclamation. The indigenous erotic demonstrates that indigenous peoples are inextricably linked to the land, that generations of land decomposition and horrific land removal policies have not destroyed the spiritual connection to our ancestors' land. The indigenous erotic functions as a state for reclamation of our bodies, our land, and our sovereignty as nations. Without sovereign bodies, there are no sovereign nations. That shit gave me chills, y'all. I feel like I should stop the episode there. Fuck. All right, let me link this. Yeah, I gotta put this in the thing just in case, in the description, just in case y'all want to read it on your own. And then shit, also just for the sake of my own knowing, like, what the fuck? This is amazing. Okay. So that article was beautiful. Now I'm trying to think if we should sit with it or if we should read another article. You know what? Let's take a sip of water and then we'll come back. Take a sip, grab your cup, grab your glass. We're getting hydrated. All right, y'all. I couldn't take it. I had to find another one because I'm too deep in. So then I found this article. It's called The Fair Observer, Independence, Diversity, and Debate. So it is definitely like a opinion-based article, and it's by somebody named John Steckley. And I just want to see if this person is a white man or not. Doesn't say. It said, but it looks like this website is based on Indigenous people. Like it just has a whole bunch of articles about Indigenous people. So this says that he is a professor at the Humber College, where he taught sociology, anthropology, and Aboriginal studies since 1986. He has published 16 books, including 5 textbooks and 5 books on Wendat, Huron language. Okay, so yes, he's Native American. All right. Or Indigenous, I should say. I hate the term Native American. Okay, so it says, for the Aboriginal people of North America, sex was not associated with guilt. The Wendat, Huron, and I truly hope that I'm pronouncing that right, are an Aboriginal people whose descendants live in 4 communities across North America, in Quebec, Canada, Michigan, Kansas, and Oklahoma. And separately across the continent, their ancestors of the 17th century became well known in Europe because of the writings in Jesuit missionaries who lived with them. Obviously, a Catholic order of men sworn to celibacy might not seem like the best source for talking about the sex life of an entire people, but the Jesuit drive for encyclopedic knowledge about their mission charges has made them a good source on this topic nonetheless. I think that they'll tell us who the Jesuit people are, but if not, I'll come back to that. It says the Wendat, so remember that was the Huron, the Aboriginal people, formed a loose confederacy of 4 smaller nations of tribes: the Bear, Cord, Rock, and Deer. They were a horticultural people growing corn, beans, and squash, which probably made up of over 2/3 of their diet. Wow. The rest comprising fish, fruit, and meat, fundamentally in that order. Most of the work of their horticulture, the planting, weeding, harvesting, and grinding, was done by women. The most important social unit was the clan, a unit determined matrinarily. Is that what this says? Matrilinearily. You belong to the clan of your mother, not your father. That's what the fuck I'm talking about. And it's actually really fucking, oh God, white people took everything and they made it ugly, because it looks like confederacy is not a bad fucking thing, and they use the word clan, and I'm like, that doesn't seem bad for them either if it's under a matrilineal society. Let's look up what a confederacy defines to. It says that confederacy is a league or alliance, especially of confederate states. The Italian confederacy, known as the Lombard League, that's like an example they give, and that's according to Oxford Languages. It says another term. It says an alliance of people or groups formed with an illicit purpose. So their illicit purpose was just not hate. And you belong to the clan of your mother, not your father, which is like so reverse, right? Because why do we end up with the last names of our fathers, but not the last names of our mothers? Okay, which is why I think it's beautiful that I have both. But like I said in the beginning of this, I'm actually thinking about changing my last name as a whole. Okay, it says people who belonged to your clan were considered related to you. People of your own generation you would address as brother or sister. That meant it was considered, it was considered insects to have sex or marry them. Wow, yeah, that makes sense. Even though you're not related, spiritually you are. In a detailed study in the 18th century, Wyandot, one of the descendant groups of the Wendat, and their linguistically and culturally closely related cousins, the Itri Nono Tater Rononon people of where there is a mountain, that's what their name translates to, or the Petun, as the French called them, yeah, because they're so fucking lazy, they didn't want to say Itro Nonon Non Te Tre No Rononon. They didn't want to say that. Suck fucking people. God, white people are so lazy sometimes. Okay. There were no marriages between people of the same clan, despite the fact that they originally numbered between 500 and 600 people during the 18th century. It is a technical term. The people were still exonymous, meaning marrying outside of the clan. Now, a woman's choice That's the next chapter. Adultery happened where there was a wundant term for it, but the person would have to be of a different clan. So I guess they weren't calling it adultery. It must have been difficult to find the right place, as each house belonged to a particular clan and could have between 8 to 70 people sleeping there. The Wendat were trading people. The men often canoeing a long distance to visit long-established trading partners of other nations. They might have had marital partners there as well, as that would strengthen the social bonds between trading partners and nations. Early European recorders speak of such relationships in terms of a male perspective, not even considering that a young woman might have had a decision-making authority in these matters. At the time, Aboriginal women generally had more say in mate choosing and disponing than their European sisters. Deep. What does the word disponing mean? Disponing, to get rid of. Does that say disposing? Oh, my bad. Of mate choosing and disposing than their European sisters. So now there's a picture of a white man, and it's like a whole bunch of little kids, and then like an Indigenous man, and then two other Indigenous men, and then another Indigenous person. Wendat attributes towards sex were certainly much more open and free than were their attitudes of the French coming over to Canada. Then called New France, were accustomed. So the Wendat were originally in Quebec, and then the French came and took over Quebec, hence why French is now a fucking language of Quebec. But then the New France were accustomed. It says, nothing recorded in writing illustrates this better than a sexual ceremony of the Wendat. It says, Brother Gabriel Segar, a member of the Recollect Order, not a Jesuit, observed during his stay with the Wendat in 1623 to 1624, a significant healing ceremonial event in the culture. Okay, so I'm assuming that this guy is a white man because it said that he was observing them. I'm going to look it up, though. Brother Gabriel Sagard. Y'all, I thought that this was going to be I knew it was going to be a deep dive, but this is a real deep dive. Oh, yeah, definitely a white man. All right. Let me go back to the article. It says, in the Huron country, there are also assemblies of all the girls in the town at a sick woman's couch, either at her request according to an imagination or vision or dream she may have had, or by order of the Okai, which is a shaman, for her health and recovery. When the girls are thus assembled, they are all asked, one after another, which of the young men of the town they would like to sleep with them the next night. Each names one, and they are immediately notified by the masters of the ceremony, and all come in the evening to sleep with those who have chosen them. Now, did it say have sex or did it say sleep with? It says sleep with, who they're chosen to sleep with the next night. Okay. Even in the presence. Oh, okay. It says notified by the masters of the ceremony, and all come in the evening to sleep with those who have chosen them in the presence of the sick woman, from one end of the lodge to another, and they pass the whole night thus, while the two chiefs at the two ends of the house ring and rattle their tortoise shells from evening till the following morning, when the ceremony is concluded. So when they say sleep with, I'm assuming that they mean have sex with? When the girls are all assembled, they are asked one after another which of the young men of the town they would like to sleep with the next night. Yeah, I think that's how I'm translating it. Wow, so it's like sex and the energy of sex was used as a ceremonial act, and the girl would choose. I wonder if there was ever a case where if the girl didn't want to have sex at all, or if she just was so deeply connected to her sexuality that that didn't exist. Like, as our, you know what I'm saying? Like, what if we are just genuinely just sexual, natural, bonobos? I don't know of bonobos having like sexual dysfunction. I've only known of them for being very sexually like fluid and complete. It says, let's see, where was that? Okay. It is important to note that it was the young women that did the choosing, not the young men. This reflects the importance and the respect given to the women in the Wendat culture. And it's so funny because my mom always says you should be the chooser, not the chosen. And she hit the nail on the head with that one. Okay. It says, be enveloped in sex for me. That's a quote. It says, but Segar, who wrote this, did not speak of the name of this ceremony. The first one to do so was Jesuit Father Jerome Lalemante, writing in 1639. He wrote of an old man, Taohenche, who was dying. He wished through riddles that people had to guess. For a white dog ceremony, sufficient cornmeal to feed the people involved in the festivities, other unnamed ceremonies. At the end, there was to be the ceremony of the Andakwander, a mating of men with girls, which is made at the end of the feast. He specified that there should be 12 girls and a 13th for himself. So this is the old man, Tara, who is dying. And I think that this was what he wanted. I hope that this story gets a bit better. It says, the first one I definitely understood, but this one, let's see. The answer being brought to the council. Now remember, this is being recounted by a white man, so let's just make sure that's clear. The answer being brought to the council, he was furnished immediately with what could be given at once. And this from the liberality and voluntary contributions of individuals who were present there and heard the matter mentioned. These peoples glorying on such occasions in despoiling themselves of the most precious things they have. Afterward, the captains went through the street and public places and through the cabins, announcing in a loud voice the desires of the sick man and exhorting people to satisfy them promptly. They are not content to go on this errand once. They repeat it 3 or 4 times, using such terms and accents that indeed would make you think that the welfare of the whole country was at stake. Meanwhile, they take care to note the names of the girl and man who present themselves to carry out the principal desire of the sick man. And in the assembly of the feast, these are named aloud. After which followed the congratulations of all those present and the best pieces. Then ensue the thanks of the sick man for the health that has been restored to him, professing himself entirely cured by this remedy. Unfortunately, the man was not cured in this context, but he died knowing he had the significant social support of his community. The name of the ceremony was Indagwadet, which literally means they are enveloped to sex. It says indefinite in the parentheses. And enveloped, does that just mean deserved? I'm learning a lot, y'all. Enveloped means wrap up, cover, surrounded completely. Wow, okay. If you wished for the ceremony, you would say Deken da Gwa de Den. By be enveloped in sex for me. The Jesuit fought to suppress this custom. By 1649, when the Wendat were on the brink of being driven out of their traditional territory, the most Christian of the communities refused to hold this ceremony. It speaks to the several aspects of traditional Wendat culture. It seems to demonstrate that their publicly articulated attitude towards sex was one that it was something to celebrate, not constrain. And it suggests that female sexuality was something taught natural, not something to be controlled. And when that language, there were no terms for innocent or guilt. So did not have those cultural concepts to condemn female sexuality. And so what's crazy is that, I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, the old man is a perv because he wants to have sex with the girl. I don't even know how old the girls were, first of all. And then like if these girls, like if they knew that they had healing powers in their womb, and maybe that's, oh my God, we've been giving our power away. Oh, okay. It says this was an Aboriginal. It says there were no words for innocence or guilt, so they did not have those cultural concepts to condemn female sexuality. This was an Aboriginal society at the time of first contact. This is before the white male fur traders sought complaint women among the people, before gallons of alcohol were poured into the fur trade. Wow. Before the Indian Act gave man power and took it away from women, before colonial oppression and poverty turned it Algonquin, which is a language family, word squaw, meaning female or woman. So squaw meant female or woman, which is crazy because that's kind of the sound that like a bird makes. Took on negative connotations. Wow. Of cheap brown whore. What? Before residential schools taught Aboriginal peoples the meaning of sexual abuse. More recently, Aboriginal women have been sexual targets. Whoa, for Canadian serial killers John Martin Crawford and Robert Pickton. They are the most likely women in Canada to be sexually assaulted, murdered, and to disappear. Fortunately, women such as those who initiated the Idle No More, I never heard of this, are fighting for the return of the respect traditionally received by the Aboriginal woman, a respect readily seen in the 17th century culture of the Wendat. Oh my God. I'm gonna save I Don't Know More as well. That's in Canada. That's why we haven't heard of it. Fucking America. And this was written 2015. I'm literally holding my head. I literally have chills. It's like I knew, but I didn't know that I didn't know. And I feel like this quite literally has answered my fucking question. I'm always talking about the patriarchy, but I very, very seldomly mention colonization. Like, what the fuck was their fucking beef, yo? What was their beef? And then also just thinking about like funding, right? Like as a Black or Indigenous person, you should literally get funding for so much shit. How are you giving funding to white companies in the sex tech industry, especially white men, when they were literally the creators of the colonization and the reason why there even needs to be an industry like this in the first place? They literally colonized and then capitalized our pleasure. Guys, I don't even know what to do. I'm like, I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going through a lot in my head. Guys, I don't even know how to end this episode. I want to start I already know we're in a revolution. We're doing the revolution. But like, what the actual fuck? Every day that passes, I just want to smile less and less at white people. Especially white men. God help me. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for listening. I don't know how to end this episode. I can't. Like, I really can't. Just do what you want with this information. Check out the Ethereal Pleasure Academy. I'm so stressed. I'm so upset. Okay, let's do some grounding practices. Let's take 3 deep breaths. You ready? Beautiful, y'all. Don't forget to drink some water too. it's normal for us to get riled up when hearing things like this, because we just see how colonized pleasure has been. Um, and so I do just want to make sure that like we do practice these grounding techniques of the breath work. And, I felt myself about to go into a spiral of like, how can I save the world? So I'm like, okay, it's here. We're doing it. We got to take one step at a time. And just remembering that like the greatest form of revolution is literally taking control back of your own body. They call that, what was the word? Sovereignty. It was like cordial sovereignty or something like that. Like having sovereignty over your own body and your own experiences, because that's what you deserve. So yeah, I'm going to leave y'all with that beautiful note. Pleasure is your birthright. You were born for that shit, and it's you don't have to fight to have it in your life. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, guys. Like I'm so excited for the content that's about to come, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. So yeah, and thank you to everybody whose pages or who wrote these articles, because I definitely learned a lot. And thank you to Tall Bear and all of the philosophical people that were able to give their Indigenous insight. And thank you to all the Indigenous people who don't stop, who don't give up. So I'm going to try to find some Indigenous creators on TikTok and see if I can fill my feedback up with some positivity, because yeah. And then I'm deleting my TikTok after that for a second because I need a break. All right, y'all. I love you. Please give yourself a hug for me. Go do something nice for yourself today. If it's nighttime, then do something nice for yourself tonight. And don't forget to be kind to yourself and to be kind to animals. Love you. Mwah.